Hello, welcome to Janome Stitch Club UK for March. My name is Julia and I'm one of the educators for Janome here in the UK, and I run the Stitch Club, and every month I try to go through some different techniques, different feet, etc. Some of the stitches, we take a look at all the different features on your machines so that you can maybe get the best out of it. And if you've got any questions, I am live in the comments tonight. And if you're watching on catch up, don't worry, you can still ask questions, put them in the comments because I do always check and get back to you. Okay, so this month, I don't know about you, but if you were lucky enough to get some Mother's Day chocolates, you may well, I have 3 children by the way, hence why I've got so many, but you may well have had some ribbon that was decorating your box of chocolates, and if you're anything like me, that ribbon of course will have gone into your sewing room, because I can't resist a little bit of ribbon or trim or anything like that. So I thought that this month it might be quite good fun to have a look at some of the decorative stitches and how they look when you actually stitch them over ribbon, because you can get some really lovely effects when you're doing stuff like this. So that for dressmaking and decorative work, we're approaching summer, or hopefully we're approaching summer, so it was nice to look at a few ways where we can just sort of jazz up those little summer shirts and tops and skirts and dresses. And the ideal way is looking at some of those stitches that you might have on your machine that you've never actually used before, because they do look really lovely for this kind of technique. So if, however, you don't want to go into full dressmaking mode quite yet, I have just done, there's a very quick little project to do some Easter cards at the end where I've just literally been playing around with scraps, which you could do as bunting as well. But anyway, I just thought that was a nice quick little project if you just wanted to have a little play with these stitches. So I'm going to also look at a couple of feet which will help you with these techniques. So we've got the ribbon and sequin foot, and also this one, the ribbon sewing guide, which is a new one to me. It's not long been in my sewing room, so I've really enjoyed having a little play with that. So why don't we turn around to the machine and get on with it. So I quickly wanted to go through, because I did say there were a couple of feet that could help with this task. The ribbon sewing guide. I've only just recently had this to play with, so I'm still sort of on a learning curve with it, shall we say. When you get it out of the packet and you go, oh my goodness me, you get the plate, and then you get 2 little rubber pads and 2 screws. Now, depending on how your layout is on here of your machine, and it does tell you on the back where the little screw hole is, and you've got a few attachments that you can use here sometimes, and again we'll go through those in other stitch clubs as we go along, but it will tell you on the back. There's also more information if you actually open up the card. There's more information about how to use it in here, but I just quickly wanted to go through. So my machine here, which is the Atelier, I need, and I know that because it tells me on that bit of card, I need the slightly thinner pad. Can you see there's a thick one and a thin one, and the shorter screw. Okay, so this is basically going to find that hole there. Okay, and I also, because it tells me on the card, know that I need to go through the longer slot here, slot 2. So basically I just go in, have a little fiddle around until I find the hole, and then I'm just going to gently screw it. I'm not going to screw it completely tight, because I now need to, before I tighten it, I'm going to untighten these 2 little screws here, because these are where the ribbon sits. I'm going to take it to its widest setting, okay, which is 1 inch. Okay, now you've got a red line here, oh, machine's gone to sleep, so let's turn the light out. You've got a red line here, and the point is you need to line that up with, hang on, let me get my screwdriver, line that up with the red mark here, because this is the center. So obviously we want to, the whole point of this foot is to help to keep us central. So I am just going to shift this back until I'm in the center position, and then tighten this screw up. Okay, and then if I'm putting in, let's have a little look. So say for example I'm putting in inch wide, which I've got here, and as you can see that fits nice and snug. I'm going to just, because it keeps sliding out, and then you can just close this up and then tighten those screws, because this is going to help you feed it through straight. Now the thing that I have found so far, and as I say I haven't had this foot very long, so I will play with it and see what else I can do with it, but the thing that I found it most helpful for is I particularly like stitching the lettering onto ribbon, and then I've got the ribbon that I can use. I use it if I'm doing things with the grandchildren, or if I'm doing classes, particularly with beginners or kids where they're on machines that don't have many fancy stitches, but sometimes it's nice to be able to make them labels to put on their work afterwards. Labeling, brilliant. And as I say, very often with this it's quite difficult to actually keep it on the straight and narrow, because when you're doing the lettering things kind of wiggle around because there's a lot of toing and froing. The other thing that I always use when I'm doing lettering is just some interfacing, and I usually use something like Stitch and Tear underneath. I've got a jar, and here is a aforementioned jar. Other jars are available, obviously, where I've just got strips of this already cut ready for whenever I want to do anything like this, any labels or lettering. So that I want to slide underneath my ribbon. Okay, so the ribbon is going in the top here, but this isn't. This is just going to sit underneath. I don't generally use iron-on, don't think it needs it. It's basically just to give your stitching better definition as you stitch on it. So I'm just going to push that through, lower my foot. Now I'm looking at that and thinking I haven't quite got that as, I think because I'm at a bit of an angle because of the camera, so it may well not be as straight as it would be if I didn't have a camera between me and the sewing machine, but that's better. Okay, so if I just go into my lettering and just put in, I've been doing the Easter card, so I could do something like that. The other thing it's really good for, and actually I'm going to do that, is labels. If you do have children at school and you need to be doing labels, so I'm just going to do a couple of labels for my granddaughter, I think. She could never have too many labels. And because I can, and because I've got it on the sewing machine, I'm going to also go back into my decorative stitches quickly. I'll put pictures up in the side of the stitches that I'm doing here. Okay, because I'm going into my pictograph, because I know for certain that there's an elephant there, and I'm going to put that on the end in the vain hope that she might actually remember to bring home her school jumpers. I realise that is a very, very vain hope, but anyway, we'll try. Okay, so I'm going to start stitching out, and as you can see it is quite a thick ribbon, so it's wider than the ribbon and sequin foot will take. So I think showing you the two is quite good, because you might find that one actually is better for the sort of thing that you do than the other. Now I'm on a, trying to think, the ribbon, it's a grosgrain, sort of taffetery grosgrain ribbon here. I should have put more gaps in between, but anyway, I'll put some Bondaweb on the back, because a mother probably won't sew these in. That'll be left to Nanny. No hand sewing involved. She does machine sewing, but no hand sewing involved. Right, I'm going to press my lock off so that it finishes at the end of that elephant, just so we've got a couple to show you. There we go. Okay, so like I say, it's kept it really nice and central there. I should have put much more of a gap, shouldn't I? So I'll put some gaps and then stitch the rest out. But as I say, this on the back, I can then just snip away or tear away, doesn't matter, so that I haven't got that all along. Not for a school label, but generally with lettering, and again, we will come back to lettering time and time again, I would normally come in and get rid of all these little jumps in between, so it just looks, it looks much better and takes time. But on school labels, I don't know that I would actually be bothered to do that, to be honest. But like I say, I just wanted to quickly show you how that foot actually goes on, because it is quite a big old chunk there, and I think when you take it out of the packet that might be a little bit confusing. The ribbon and sequin sewing foot is much simpler in comparison, but like I said, if we look at it here, the ribbons that you can use are narrower, so 9mm, which is this bottom one here. Let me find if I got, I think this tape is 9mm. This one here, you can feed, there's a 7, a 3 and a 2. No, that's slightly wider, isn't it? I think this is what I was looking at, because I was looking through all my ribbons trying to find the ones, hang on, let's use are narrower, so 9mm, which is this bottom one here. Let me find if I got, I think this white one there, the ones that were the, right, there we go. So that one there, look, goes in. And this foot, a bit like all your others, you've got the bar here. So you just drop it down onto there and you are ready. So this one's quicker to put on, but like I say, the width, the maximum width isn't quite so wide. And then that just feeds through and you hold it in place. Okay, having played with the two of them, I must say I am preferring the one with the plate, partly because you can do that wider, and as I say, I do like being able to do the lettering nice and straight. But also, if I was doing something through the center, like I've done it here, for example, I'll show you how I did this, because I did actually do this one without the foot. But if I was going to do a stitch through the center there, I could do it on a much wider ribbon, so that all of the stitching, I could do 3 actual different stitches on here, couldn't I? I'll finish a little sample and again put that in a picture on the side. So those are the sort of specialist feet. But now let's look at how you do it if you haven't got those at the moment. Now I want to have a look at playing around with putting more than one stitch over the ribbon as well. So what I've done here, and this is what I'm saying, if you don't have any specialist feet, the feet that you will more than likely, well, you will definitely have this one, because just about every machine has it. It's the satin stitch foot, the F foot. and this is the one that has got that sort of I don't know if you can see it there, the actual sort of divot in between. So it's really good for these decorative stitches because it just glides over the top. You may also have the F2, which is the kind of open toe version of this that I've used before in lots of these videos. I like this one because it gives me a nice clear view, similar to the applique foot as well, but sometimes I want to see exactly what's happening as I'm approaching. So either of these two will work. This one, and I'll show you in a minute. I'm going to start with this one actually, show you why you might want to use the different ones. So on here, and this is one thing that I do think is worth doing. I'm working on linen. Now, as you can see, it's a terribly neat sample because I am trying to keep things neat and tidy. I've put some interfacing on the back. Now, if I was working on an actual garment, I would be using something like stitch and tear. I've spray starched it as well. I mean, you could just spray starch it to death. I often do that with linen because it just stops it shifting and moving while you're doing this sort of work, these sort of stitches on it, and then obviously it will all just wash away afterwards. So it's well worth putting something on here, but I've done this just because, as I always say, when you're doing this fancy stitching, they always do their best. The machine does its best quality of stitching when it can really get its teeth into it. So a single layer of cottony fabric, lightweight cotton, is not usually enough. So for example, if I was doing it on a cotton lawn or something, I would definitely put something behind it. But as I say, I would want something that I can then remove afterwards because I don't want it to make the actual garment stiff. So what I've got on here, and this is one of those things, as I'm talking, you can see I'm trying desperately to get, there we go, get into it. This is wash away quilter's tape. Okay, it's a double-sided tape and it will then wash away. So you can put it on, you peel off the top and there it is. You can then stick on whatever you want, stitch it, and then it will disappear in the first wash. Okay, so this is a really useful item. I know it's one of those that they call it quilters, but actually if you're doing zips on you know, slinky fabrics, holding the zip in place, even to baste it, this is actually quite a good product. So it's just one of those things that's really useful to have in your sewing box. And then I can literally just stick my ribbon excuse me, stick my ribbon over the top there, ready to do my fancy stitching. So while I'm fiddling around, let me get in. I mean, I've got some nails here, but even then you can't get, there we go. Okay, so it does just give you, like I say, the best chance of keeping things on the straight and narrow. Right, so I've put in a blue thread. I've got bobbin fill in the bottom actually, and I've got a blue thread in the top. Now, if I bring you in much closer, there we go, so that you can see exactly where I'm positioning. So this ribbon, which is the 9mm, as you can see, fits really snug in that gap there. So that is going to make it nice and easy for me to actually see exactly what I'm doing and keep it straight. Okay, so I'm going to then go and have a little look through the stitches, and at this point just do yourself some samples and go for it, because there are so many nice stitches, and some that you might not have even looked at and thought, well, I don't know what on earth I would do with any of those. So as I say, go and have a little look and see. There's I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to find, there's a flower. It's a really nice flower. There we go. So pictograph. I'll put a couple of pictures up of various things. Now, because this is a 9mm machine, oh look, here we go, just about to start. I've already managed to unthread it. This is a 9mm machine. The stitch has come up to be 9mm. I'm going to take it down slightly because I want it to sit in the middle, not right up to the edge here. So I'm going to take it down to 7. Okay, there we go. And then I'm just going to stitch that through the centre. And like I say, I'm keeping that in line. So nice and easy to eyeball it. This is actually a single-faced satin ribbon, but I'm actually stitching it on the wrong side because I didn't want the shiny side. I wouldn't recommend, because I have done it, like I say, I've been messing around with all sorts, and I did do a double-faced satin ribbon. Don't recommend that because that was just slip sliding regardless of what foot and whatever I used. It's quite thick, and quite honestly you don't need it to be double-sided for this job, so a bit of a waste really. So okay, so we are at the end, aren't we? There we go. So perfect, all the way through the centre. And as I say, by the time all of this interfacing and everything else comes off, can I do that? I'd say I did, yeah, look. Go in and start tearing that away, and you can see, look, we'll get that, start to get that softness back in the fabric. And as I say, that double-sided tape will also come off in the wash. So again, it's going to free that up, so it's got a lot better, nicer movement. I shouldn't have done that before I do the next bit. However, on this one, what I want to do is show you how to do 2 stitches across the ribbon. So I'm going to do something slightly different. Let's go back and find something else. So I'm going to look at one of my longer stitches, and again I might take that down. No, I'm going to leave that actually as it is. So it's just one of the flowery stitches, and this time I'm lining it up, look, on the edge here, because I'm going to do it both sides of the ribbon so that the ribbon is actually in the middle. I've literally just picked this stitch. It's probably not, there might be nicer ones. I'm going to definitely show you all the different samples of things that I've done. So look, we're going along the side there, and then I can go back in, turn it round, and now go down the other side. I think something a bit denser would look good, wouldn't it? I need to concentrate on what I'm doing. But you can see with this stitch, this is harder to keep straight because it's a lot of toing and froing, isn't it? So look, we've got that stitch there. Now I'm going to go back to my I tell you what, I'm going to find, there's a little French knot stitch and it's in the quilting, so let's find that one. And I'm going to line up in the middle, and I'm going to start, because I'm really hoping oh, unthreaded. Oh, hang on, there we go. Go to the back. Okay. Yeah, so this is quite a little diddy star. It's not a very big one. I'm sticking to blue, but like I say, I'll do some samples where I mix up the colours a little bit. So look, it's now starting to get really fancy on there, isn't it? Here's one. Look, I've done that flower in the centre. I used the ribbon guide for this one, so that I could make sure it was in the centre. And then I've just done this little one either side. And as I say, if I'd done different colours, you can really play with your colours, can't you? So I've changed this over and I've stitched out this leaf on here. I did it at 9mm, so it goes the full width of the ribbon that I'm using. And what I'm putting over the top here is this little French knot. There's a few different stitches. So this is in the decorative stitches and it's stitch number 5. But what I've done is I've just lengthen the stitch, and if you can on your machine, not all machines will let you lengthen some of these decorative stitches, but my Atelier will. I've taken it up so that I'm spreading it out, so that if you see, there's a sort of a bigger gap in between them, because I'm just trying to make it look a little bit like the sort of a little flower in amongst the leaves, really. So I've used that contrasting colour. And this is what I mean about playing, so I can write down exactly what I've done here on this sample. So I don't necessarily have to do this stitch over ribbon. But look, so now we're getting some really interesting braids going, aren't we? That's a variegated thread as well, which is quite nice, isn't it? So now I've swapped it out for that inch ribbon, but look, can you see I've moved the foot over here, so I'm on 9mm. I'm on one of my heirloom stitches. I'll put the little picture up in the side so you can see which one. It's like diamonds. And I think as you stitch these stitches out, you'll start to see, I know this is something I repeat constantly, but you'll start to see where you could actually use them. Mending, visible mending, so if you've got issues going on and it's quite a big mend that you need to do, then you can stabilize it behind and then just fill it in with these sorts of stitches. So I've got those now going on there, so I could, I'm not going to because I'm lining it up now, so I'm going to follow this line down here. And I'm going to put in something different, something a bit, so I'm going to go quickly into my quilt stitches and one of the actual star stitches. But again, I could do a different colour, which then adds a little bit of interest. I don't think I've kept that very straight because of the camera position, but I've got the whole strip done. I'm liking this one a lot, actually. I think that would look really, really cute around the bottom of a little skirt or something for summer. So look, you can see we can just keep on going and filling these up, can't we, with all kinds of building up the stitches. So I've just changed this stitch out because I've got a little sailing boat on my machine, but what I've done, and I'll show you the screenshot in the corner, is I put a gap in between each boat. Could have put 2 gaps actually, and I'm going to the top. This is slightly wider ribbon, 12mm I think, so that my 9mm stitch is sitting at the top here, because I'm then going to change, I've got navy thread, I'm going to change that out. So I've put in a variegated thread and I put on this this little wave stitch. I've taken it down slightly so that I don't go over my boats, and I'm judging it here, so it's just coming slightly off the ribbon on the underside. That's going to give me a little, just a nice little wave going on underneath. It'd be quite cute, wouldn't it, on a little boy's shirt, across the top of the pocket or something. So there we go. So I think you can see, and these are just the ones that I've done while I'm filming today, but as I say, I will put a few pictures up around about of various other ones, and then let me know what you come up with as well, because it's definitely worth doing a whole pile of little sample pieces and then just seeing exactly what you can come up with, because some of these stitches, you know, you put them together and then you start adding other things in, going to give you some really interesting effects. And I am definitely thinking summertime sleeves, statement collars, statement sleeves, skirt borders, things like that. Like I say, tops of pockets or whatever. If you can't find a trim, make it. That's the answer, isn't it? Always. One other discovery on the ribbon and sequin foot is this. This is my favourite elastic for cuffs and things like that. So I thought I would give it a go, because that's sometimes tricky, isn't it, to keep that on the straight and narrow. So I've popped that in. I just want to get the needle down. Ooh, what stitch am I on? Still on a fancy one, I think, because that's what I wanted to look at actually, was maybe one of the fancier stitches. When I was talking about doing stretch fabrics, there are, in your heirloom section, you've normally got a few stitches that I would term as stitches that you'd use for things like smocking. So I was thinking, okay, well, how about a little bit of pretty smocking? That would be rather nice, wouldn't it? So I'm going into my heirloom section. I've got my elastic there and I'm kind of holding it down. So I've gone into one of those heirloom stitches. It's pretty wide, so I'm going to bring it down a little bit because this elastic isn't terribly wide. Okay. And start stitching. That's it. So once it's anchored, I can then pull the elastic. You can see, can't you, that I'm pulling it, and I'm still lifting it up slightly in that guide as as I go along, and then as soon as I can get to the back I can start easing it through as well. There we go, and then just check what it's doing on the front as well. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like on the underneath. So you can see that, like I say, kind of smocking stitch, but look how pretty that is. That's nice, isn't it? Especially if it's just, because, you know, a cuff, you don't necessarily have to have that particularly tight. In fact, you wouldn't really want it very tight, would you? But nice to be able to do something so it's just a little bit more interesting, I would have said. And in actual fact, you know, nothing to say that you couldn't, because shearing is big at the moment, but why not use that layer after layer so that you could build up an actual smocked top to a dress rather than necessarily using shearing. So like I say, I just wanted to kind of point out the other use for this lovely little foot. And as you can see, different widths of elastic would fit in quite nicely there, wouldn't they? So for the little project, if you wanted a little something to have a play with, I've done these, I showed you before, these little Easter cards. You could equally do it as bunting. And I had some strips knocking around, so I've just flipped and stitched, and then I've just added ribbons and tapes and just kind of messed around and experimented. And I did some pink, a pink strip and a yellow strip, and then I've got my Easter egg shape. I didn't do you a template because I think you'll probably be able to find one of those somewhere, and then I can just go along cutting out as many of those as I can out of there. And then once I've cut my shape, I'm then going to just quickly zigzag around it. I've got my zigzag setting on 3 for the width and 0.7, so it's quite a close but not a complete satin stitch. And I'm just going on to, let me a little bit closer for you. There we go. And I'm just going to go all the way around onto, this is just felt, just normal white felt, so you can use any coloured felt. So as I say, you can use this for bunting if you want, because it's going to have enough oomph. You it for this month. Hopefully that has given you some inspiration and ideas and help. Like I said before, any questions, any queries, please do pop them into the comments below. I think you need to subscribe before you can do that, but if you can give a little thumbs up if this is the kind of thing that you're enjoying, or if there's something in particular you want me to cover, please do put something in the comments. Again, trying to go through various things, and I have got quite a long list, as you can imagine, but as I say, I hope that you found this useful, and I will see you again next month.